Hello there. Connor and I would like to thank you for clicking on this video, and this is a review of the Diadora Frequenza 2. And full disclosure, I got this shoe at no cost from Charlotte Running Company for the purposes of trying it out and possibly releasing a review on it. But that's not going to affect my opinion of the shoe. I have not tried it on yet, and all opinions will be my own and subjective to my own preferences and needs as a runner. And we'll see what Convoy thinks about it too. Right, buddy? Diadora Frequenza, specs and features, fresh out of the box, so it's still shiny and pristine. We'll start with the upper. We have this nice mesh upper, breathable mesh upper. They have the sawtooth laces that I think are pretty much everyone's favorite. This is a very well put together upper. They definitely gave a nod towards style and class with this upper. I don't know if I like the color of this Diadora logo, but everything else is very good looking. They have this faux suede along the outside of the heel there. They also have faux suede across the top of the tongue. The tongue is lightweight, but it's substantial. It's thin, and there's definitely enough there to keep the lace pressure off of the top of the foot. I think it is reminiscent of a lot of performance trainers or race models, and it is a gusseted tongue. The heel counter is pretty rigid, but there is an elf heel flare to keep the pressure off the Achilles, and the padding around the collar of the shoe is pretty thick for what is billed as a performance shoe. The sock liner is removable, so you can customize the fit. Standard strobe last under there, and you can really feel the softness of the midsole there. We'll get to the midsole in a moment. Pretty standard sock liner, but it's not just super thin. I think it's not like just the cheapest bit of foam that you can find like you normally find with sock liners. It's a decent sock liner. Going down to the midsole, we'll start with the stack heights. The stack heights, it is 36 millimeters in the heel, 28 millimeters in the forefoot for an 8 millimeter drop. The midsole technology is called Anima N2, and it is a supercritical EVA. I imagine the N in N2 would stand for nitrogen, which usually is the gas that they use to pump up those supercritical EVA midsoles. It does feel really soft and responsive to the squeeze, but of course I have not had my feet in these yet. The outsole is Duratec 5000. That is their proprietary name for this rubber, and it is in strategic zones on the heel and in the forefoot, but with plenty of exposed EVA, plenty of room for this soft midsole to compress and expand both laterally as well as vertically. So I'm excited to try these on. The weight, I did weigh them once I took them out of the box, and they are advertised for a men's US size 9 at 230 grams. My US men's size 9.5, the left shoe was 234 grams, and the right shoe was 233 grams. So that is pretty much the same. That comes out to 8.2 ounces for all of my non-metric friends. And that is in line with where I think a performance trainer should be. There is no plate in this midsole, no stiffening agents. I think this Anima N2 is going to be responsive enough and flexible enough to give some good compliance and resilience, but I also think there's enough substance to it so that it doesn't just fold in on itself. We'll see once we get the shoe on foot. First run in the Diadora Frequenza 2, and it's just a shakeout the day before I do a trail race. Yeah, I mean, I'm just doing an easy 3 to 3.5 miles, 5 to 6K at an easy pace, and it's not giving me performance trainer vibes, but I'm also not really doing any performance trainer paces today. It feels really soft and bouncy for what is supposed to be a lighter weight performance trainer. Almost feels like a Mach stack shoe compared to a lot of the performance trainers I use. I definitely have to try these on a different kind of run, but it's giving me more daily trainer vibes, and that's not a bad thing. Also, it really wants me to use the whole foot, meaning land closer to the rear foot and roll through the whole foot. That's interesting. I mean, I don't hate it. I kind of like it, but I run differently in this shoe. And that's based off of only a little over 2 miles so far. I've just done a long run in the Diadora Frequenza 2. And yeah, it felt pretty good for a 2+ hour long run. It's a hot day. It certainly retains a lot of moisture, more moisture than I would like for a shoe of this, you know, class. It's not that it's not breathable. My foot's a little bit more sweaty in this shoe than in some others. But as far as the midsole response and how it holds up, it felt really good, still really soft after those 2 hours, 10 minutes that I was running in. Still very bouncy. I feel like still this shoe wants me to extend my stride a little bit more. When I looked at my cadence data though, my cadence was pretty normal, whereas the last time I ran in the shoe, my cadence was lower, meaning I was taking longer loping strides. I wasn't picking up the pace at all today. It was mostly LSD. I do want to try this shoe out for a workout or two and see how it rolls through the paces and see if it's going to be a performance trainer or something I'm going to use more for dailies or long runs. Just did a workout with the Frequenza 2. It was a mixed pace workout with some tempo intervals and some VO2 max and faster than VO2 max intervals. A lot of it was on the track, but I'm on the roads as well. This shoe makes me want to take a longer loping stride. Nothing wrong with that as a product, but that's just not how I run. It definitely feels like more of a daily trainer to me and not something I would reach for a dedicated workout.
It's shoe off time, and here we have the Diadora Frequenza 2 up against the Hoka Mach 6, the Nike Pegasus Plus, the Adidas Adizero Evo SL, the 361 degrees Eleos, the Mizuno Neo Zen, and the Topo Specter 2.
All right, here we have the Hoka Mach 6 and the Diadora Frequenza 2. The Mach 6 is my old standby workhorse, and this pair is a little bit beat up, but it still responds well. The Frequenza 2 has a lot more bounce, just seems like it has a lot more midsole under the foot, especially in the rear foot, which is something that I've noticed and mentioned throughout my testing of this shoe. So for a heel striker or proximal midfoot striker, you're really gonna get the most out of that bounce. The Mach 6, for me personally, Chaz, has more of an accommodating geometry, meaning it rockers through my own gait cycle a little bit more smoothly, but the foam is not as energetic. That also might be because these Mach 6 have at least a couple 100 miles on them, whereas the Frequenza has only about 30 miles on it at the time of this shoe off. And I've got the Nike Pegasus Plus and the Diadora Frequenza 2. Both of these shoes retail for the same amount in the United States. It's $180 US. They're both, I would say, high-end daily trainers slash performance trainers. They both use a single density of foam. The Frequenza has a supercritical EVA in the Anima N2, and the Pegasus Plus uses Zoom X, which is PIBA. But I have maintained in other comparisons that a supercritical EVA, if done right, can be just as fun and responsive as a training foam as an unplated PIBA shoe. And that's the case here. The PIBA response in the Pegasus Plus is a little bit quicker response, but less compliance, less resilience. Whereas there's more dynamic response from the Frequenza 2. More compliance, more resilience, and even if it's not a quicker response, it's a more fun response. Especially, like I've said, if you're rocking back further on the rear foot, then you're getting the most out of that deep response, which is fun to me for daily miles. And it's the reason the next couple of shoes are up in the lineup. All right, now against the Frequenza 2, I have what is arguably the most popular trainer of 2025 so far, and that's the Adizero Evo SL. And I have gotten past the break-in point on the Evo SLs, so the old school Light Strike Pro is really in its sweet spot right now. And it being there, the geometry of that shoe for my gait, it's going to be a lot more versatile than the Frequenza 2. However, the Frequenza 2 out of the box has a similar, if not more, energetic bounce than the Evo SL has after its break-in period. So let me get out of the road here. So there's that. Especially if you're a rear foot striker, you can get that right out of the box. The Frequenza 2 also has a much better upper, more form-fitting, lockdown upper, because the Evo SL's upper is terrible. However, if you're paying full price for either of these, you have to really debate whether the better upper is $30 more of a value than the Evo SL, which is $150 in the US. Outsole traction, it's a dry day, but the Evo SL does not have good traction for me in the wet. The Frequenza does have good traction, but it retains a lot of moisture in the upper. There's a downside to that upper, so it's a trade-off. To choose between two of these, I would probably have to go with the masses and stick with the Evo SL, especially at its lower cost. So when I first tried on the Frequenza 2, the shoe it reminded me the most of was this shoe, the 361 degrees Eleos. And there's a lot similar about them. The Frequenza 2 is a little bit lighter, a little bit bouncier, but they both have a really nice lockdown. They both have a single density supercritical foam that's really bouncy and really fun. The Eleos has lost a little bit of its zip after about 150 miles. But right now, if I were to go back to my first comparison between the Frequenza and the Mach 6, I would say the Eleos, as it is now, is kind of halfway between the 250 mile Mach 6 and the 30-mile Frequenza. Both of these solid daily trainers with a good amount of bounce. The 361 degrees Eleos stays out of my way a little bit more, but the Frequenza is a little lighter and a little more energetic. It's also more expensive though. All right, we've got the Frequenza 2 and the Mizuno Neo Zen. I try to be pretty intentional about what shoes I bring to these shoe-offs, and when Jamie at CRC offered for me to try out the Frequenza 2, I was like, okay, Diadora Performance Trainer, probably going to be comparing that to Saucony Endorphin Speed, Valkyrie Speedworks, you know, maybe, I don't know, the On Cloud Boom Zone. But no, as I ran in it, it was giving me fun, bouncy daily boy. And can you really have that conversation without including the Neo Zen? I think that is the epitome of a fun, bouncy daily boy. And comparing these two, the Neo Zen is a lot bouncier and probably a lot more fun than the Frequenza 2. Both are fun. The Frequenza 2, though, is more stable and it has a more locked down upper. That's my one gripe about the Neo Zen. And it's probably because I need to size down a half size like the rest of the world. The Frequenza 2 I would choose for a 2-hour long run, like I did a few days ago. The Neo Zen I would probably use for maybe up to 90 minutes, but probably more like 60 minutes, maybe with some pace variations. All right, I have the Frequenza 2, and I have the Topo Specter 2. Now, while the Evo SL seems like it's the perfect daily performance trainer for everyone else in the world, the Specter 2 is
pretty close to the perfect daily performance trainer for me, for Chaz. And when contrasting it with the Frequenza 2, it's like I'm talking about two different runner profiles. I think someone like Joanna would like the Frequenza 2 just because, well, he's a bigger guy than me. He's 6'1", 6'2", probably got about 30 pounds on me, and is more rear foot biased. He's gonna use this whole midsole and he's gonna love it. Someone like me who prefers more the midfoot to the forefoot, or someone like the midlife runner, probably gonna enjoy this shoe but not get the most out of it compared to something like the Specter 2, which is pretty much my suitcase shoe. I should probably talk about what a suitcase shoe is in the shoe talk. Anyway, I say that Kofuzi likes the Frequenza 2. If you've not seen his review, go over to it. He came out with that as I was still testing this. But he's very diplomatic, and if you've seen enough Kofuzi videos, you'll know what I mean. He's very diplomatic when he talks about the forefoot. Between these two, no contest. The Specter 2, even though it's not as bouncy, just responds better to me. Better lockdown in the midfoot, more space in the forefoot, more useful. But the Frequenza 2 is still almost as fun.
All right, shoe talk time. As you know, I have in my hand the Diadora Frequenza 2, and there's a lot that I like about this shoe. You can probably tell I really like the foam. I really like the Anima N2 as a midsole compound. Now, the shape of the midsole is not ideal for me in this particular shoe. It's more of a wedge shape. At least someone like Kofuzi would call it a wedge shape, and I prefer something with a little bit more of a midfoot or forefoot bias. But it's certainly very bouncy and very fun, and I'm still going to continue to run in it. More on that later. The upper is very impeccably put together. It looks good. This powder blue is growing on me, and yeah, even this graffiti chevron for the Diadora logo is still kind of growing on me too, I guess. The faux suede that I talked about when I did the specs and features, I want to revisit that. Because while it's classy, while it feels good against the foot, especially when it's dry, it does soak up a lot of sweat. It's the middle of summer in North Carolina. My feet were a lot sweatier in this shoe than they were in a lot of other shoes, and it just kind of retained a bit of moisture. So I did have to dry these out even if it wasn't raining. The grip was okay. The soft rubber on the forefoot was plenty grippy, especially in the dry. It was okay in the wet. I feel like this Duratec 5000 is going to last a while. This shoe is going to last for a lot of miles. It's going to be a mileage hog. However, it's probably going to be relegated to long runs and some daily runs with me. I'll feel comfortable if I need to pick up the pace in this shoe, but it's not going to be my suitcase shoe. I talked about a suitcase shoe during the shoe off, and what would be the perfect suitcase shoe for me would be the Topo Specter 2. And that means if I was going to pack one pair of shoes in a suitcase to go on a trip to travel light, it would probably be something like this, which I could do everything in. I could do long runs, daily runs, workouts, and feel like it is well suited to all of those. The Diadora Frequenza 2 is not quite that for me. I could, wear it around if I really wanted to draw attention to myself, wear it around casually. It is going to be more versatile than something like the Asics Nova Blast 5, which is a lovely shoe, and I love to do my easy runs in this shoe. The Diadora Frequenza 2 reminds me a lot of that. I should have brought this in the shoe off, but this just has a lot more energy and a lot more bounce, where this just feels like cushioned to me. I could compare this to the New Balance Rebel series, the V4 or the V5. I have not tried on the V5 yet, and the V5 has very similar specs to this. The V4, my V4s are long since dead, and I left them in Hopkinton, Massachusetts anyway, but it's going to be that class of shoe, where it's like something that would in another world be a performance trainer, but is probably for most people going to be a daily trainer. $180 US for this shoe. That's high, I think. But in the United States, at least, Diadora is kind of like a boutique brand, like On, or maybe not like Tracksmith because they only have 2 shoe models, but you know what I mean. You're kind of paying for that Diadora name, for that Italian craftsmanship. And I'm not sure if the Frequenza 2 is one of those that's made in Italy, like the Gara Carbon or the Atomo Star, but you're kind of paying for that Diadora high-end value, and it is well put together. I don't think you would be disappointed in having this shoe, and I feel privileged to have it. And I'm going to put a lot of miles in this in the coming weeks because I'm going to be doing summer grit, and I'm going to try and do 300 miles in July. And since this is a mileage hog, since this midsole is going to last a while, and since it kind of forces me to run a little bit differently than I normally would, I'm going to get to use a few more motor groups that I normally wouldn't wake up. So I'll kind of spread some of the load throughout that high volume month across all of my muscle groups. But yeah, if you're a rear foot striker or proximal midfoot striker, I think you might find this shoe very fun. At Charlotte Running Company, at all of the locations in the Charlotte area, they carry this shoe, or at least they carry Diadora, and some of them also carry the Gara Carbon, which you don't find in a lot of brick and mortar places. So if you're in the Charlotte area, like some of my viewers are, go and try it on, or at least ask them about it. I mean, it's worth taking a chance on. Look at the Supwell app. It certainly is a comfortable shoe. Just be wary of the warm weather, moisture soaking in for this shoe. I think that's about all I have to say. Again, thank you to Charlotte Running Company for providing this shoe to me at no cost. And shop there if you get a chance. They also have an online presence if you're not in the Charlotte area. So don't forget to like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, leave a comment below, especially if you're overseas or in Europe and maybe Diadora is more accessible in that part of the world. Tell me what you think if you've tried it on, or what the pricing like is over there in euros, for example. All right, thanks guys. I'll see you on the next run.